Hi there, John from Adventure Shetland here, and today we're going to take a look at 10 must-see Shetland archaeological sites. So let's dig in. It's a terrible pun, but I stand by it. Let's go. Okay, kicking off the list at number 10 we have the Scour de Brewster. The Scour de Brewster was a Neolithic farming community on the west side of the Shetland mainland, quite close to the village of Waz. The farm was in use for about 1500 years, from 3000 BC to roughly 1500 BC. And at first the landscape here was a woodland of willow, birch and hazel, which is quite hard to imagine nowadays having a look around. The first buildings here were made of wood, none of which remain today, but we do have the remnants of 3 stone houses with various outbuildings and field boundaries associated with them. The site was abandoned about 1500 BC as a wetter climate caused peat to kind of envelop the fields and it forced the farmers out, and no one has cultivated the land here since. We're moving forward in time for number 9 and heading over to the island of Bressay. Bronze Age Bressay is a reconstructed burnt mound which was excavated at Crewster and rebuilt stone by stone, partly by myself actually, about a kilometre along the coast next to the Bressay Heritage Centre in 2008. This was done to protect the original burnt mound from coastal erosion. The function of burnt mounds remains something of a mystery, although we know hot stones were being used to heat water in stone tanks, and the burnt stones were then discarded around the tank, which is what creates the mound. Various suggestions have been made as to the use of these structures, including cooking, leather tanning and bathing. To help determine this, the Bressay burnt mound also has a replica version beside it, beside the original monument, for experimentation purposes. The Bressay burnt mound is very unusual in that it had permanent structures alongside it. This is very rare, with only a few examples in Shetland, one in Orkney and one in the Western Isles having associated buildings like this. All in all, it's a very worthy inclusion on our list. At number 8 we're returning back to the west side again, but this time we're exploring the wonderful Culswick Broch. Perched on a hilltop above the loch and accessed by crossing a causeway, the Broch commands views over Shetland's Atlantic seaboard from Fitful Head in the south to Foula in the far west and across the Easter Sound to the Isle of Vela. The Broch here has never been excavated, but we know these round towers are about 2000 years old and had a double-walled construction which contained small rooms or cells kind of between the two walls, as well as a staircase to upper floors or galleries. Here we can see part of the supporting ledge for these upper floors, and we know from the amount of collapsed rubble, as well as drawings from the 18th and 19th centuries, that the Broch was substantially taller than the 3 to 4 metres to which it survives today. Externally, the Culswick Broch has a substantial outer wall, and above the tower's single entrance it has a massive triangular lintel stone, similar to that at Dundonegall in Sutherland and Old Scatness, but we'll hear more about that later. Culswick is also one of my favourite camping spots, and it simply had to make the list. Scalloway Castle in Shetland's ancient capital comes into our list at number 7. The castle was built in 1600 by Patrick Stewart, the 2nd Earl of Orkney and Shetland, and it was his seat of power during a short spell as the kind of proxy ruler of Shetland. Earl Patrick was a tyrant. He stole land and feuded with the local lairds. The castle was built using unpaid labour, summoned from around Shetland to do the Earl's bidding. The 4-storey castle was completed around 1607 and served as the Earl and his representatives' residence in the Isles, as well as a meeting place for the Thing, or the local parliament of Shetland. The ground level has vaulted ceilings and is home to the kitchens, stores and a dungeon, with the Great Hall on the first floor. And spiral staircases led off from this to the upper chambers. By 1609, the Shetland lairds had had enough of Earl Patrick and complained to the king about his misrule. The Earl was at first imprisoned in Edinburgh Castle before he was executed in 1615 after encouraging his son to rebel against the king and seize the earldom. By the 18th century, the castle had fallen into disrepair and some of the ornamental stonework was removed. The ruins were placed into state care in 1908 and it's now operated by Historic Scotland. The key is available from the next door Scalloway Museum, which is well worth a visit in itself. We're going to the far north for number 6 now, Viking Unst. Unst is Shetland's most northerly island and is home to the highest number of rural Viking longhouses in the world. I could easily make a full-length video about this, so if that's something you'd like to see, then please let me know in the comments. Between 2006 and 2008, 3 Viking longhouses were excavated in Unst, at Belmont in the south of the island, Underhool in the west, and at Hammer in the east. Based on the findings of these excavations, a replica longhouse has been built alongside a replica longship, which stopped off in Shetland on a voyage from Sweden to America, and it never actually left again. In addition, there's further longhouses also at Underhool and the Easton, as well as Norse chapels and graves at FRAMGORD and Lund. Taken as a collective then, Viking Unst is well worth its spot on this list. Coming in at number 5, we have the Staneydale Temple. Staneydale Temple was at the centre of a Neolithic farming community dating from around 3000 to 2000 BC. In addition to the temple, there are the ruins of several houses, field systems, and some standing stones. The temple building is shaped like the heel of a boot, with a flat front wall containing a single entrance and a curved wall forming the back and sides. It's similar in shape to temples in Malta of the same age, hence the interpretation here, although its actual function remains unknown. What is known is that it took an awful lot of effort to build the Staneydale Temple. Stones of this size, some of them weigh up to about 300 kilos, are not really found in the locality, and they might have been transported quite a distance. The floor of the temple contains 2 large post holes, both of which contain charred spruce. Spruce is a non-native species, which was most likely driftwood and washed ashore here. In any case, the post holes each contained 2 upright timbers, which were tied together to give enough strength to support the roof. Interestingly, the Staneydale Temple is built in a location which has no view of the sea, which is quite rare in Shetland. And whatever its function, this mysterious Stone Age monument is our number 5. In at the number 4 spot on our list is another broch, this time at Clickimin. The Clickimin Broch is situated on a promontory into the Clickimin Loch on the outskirts of Lerwick. The broch here also has outbuildings and evidence of earlier use of the site as well. The promontory is accessed via a causeway, which was made wider by draining the loch in the late 1800s. At the head of the causeway is an intriguing stone with human footprints carved into it, and it might have been related to the inauguration of kings in the Iron Age or the Pictish periods. The next feature we come to is a thick stone wall which surrounds the whole promontory, immediately inside which is a blockhouse, which is presumably to strengthen the defences at the entrance. The Broch Tower itself stands to an impressive height of around 10 metres or so, although it was largely rebuilt during the early 20th century, which included the addition of a couple of windows, which are not original Broch features. A number of the original features do remain though, with galleries, cells and the staircase within the walls all easily visible. And outside the Broch Tower there are earlier structures dating back to around 1000 BC. I've recorded a virtual tour of the Clickimin Broch and I've provided a link to it down below in the description, and that links to all of the other virtual tours that I've done as well. So if you're interested in that, have a look down below and you'll find everything you need. At number 3 we have the fascinating multi-period site of Old Scatness. The site was excavated between 1995 and 2006 and is also focused on a broch, but has a far greater array of surrounding and later buildings and structures. The broch dates from around 400 to 200 BC, which pushes the date of the broch period back earlier than was previously thought. We know the site was in use prior to this though, as there are plough marks in the soil below the level of the broch foundations. The broch also has a triangular lintel, but it appears to be wholly decorative with little structural function, unlike the one at Culswick. Next in the sequence we have Iron Age roundhouses, which were initially aisled, but we can track their evolution into the Pictish wheelhouses. In one of the wheelhouses here, a Pictish carving of a bear was found, despite there being no evidence of bears having been in Shetland at the time. The Pictish buildings were reused by the Vikings as they arrived, and although there are no longhouse remains, the site continued to be used throughout the late Norse and into the post-medieval period, although seemingly in a reduced capacity to what it was at before. Old Scatness is a fascinating site and a brilliant example of how the sites, the building styles and their functions can all evolve and change over time. There are also full-scale reconstructions of 3 of the buildings on the site to give a greater appreciation and understanding of this evolution. We're staying with multi-period sites in the South Mainland for our second place, Jarlshof. Jarlshof was named by the author Sir Walter Scott in his novel The Pirate, and most of this astonishing site, with the exception of the Laird's house, lay buried and undiscovered until storms in the 1890s exposed parts of the site through erosion. Several excavations have revealed an astonishing array of remains dating from the 17th century Laird's house all the way back to the Stone Age. There are Neolithic buildings and shell maidens, Bronze Age houses, and even a smithy dating to that period. Moving into the Iron Age, we have another broch, well, half a broch at least, the other half is eroded into the sea. And there are also remains of roundhouses, and again we can see the evolution into that wheelhouse style. The Pictish wheelhouses stand to their full height, minus the roofs of course, and are really quite spectacular. Jarlshof is probably most famous for its Viking remains, however. There are several longhouses and other farm buildings here, dating from the Viking Age right through the late Norse period. And finally we come to the Laird's house from the 1600s. And local legend has it that the upright stones in the courtyard are sailors' graves from a nearby shipwreck, although this remains unproven. Jarlshof is a truly incredible site where we can see literal layers of history before our very eyes. It's a true archaeological gem. And so here it is, the most must-see Shetland archaeological site, Mousa Broch. Situated on the island of Mousa off the southern east coast of the Shetland mainland, the broch here is the best preserved example remaining in the world today. It stands to a height of 13 metres and has watched over Mousa Sound for around 2,000 years, along with what seems to have been a partner broch at Burland on the mainland side of the water. Mousa has all the expected broch features: double walls, cells within them, a staircase leading to upper galleries and where they once were, and from the top it's got fantastic views of the surrounding seas. Mousa Broch is mentioned in Norse sagas as a hideout for eloping lovers, a Viking Romeo and Juliet as it were, and it's also home to Britain's most important colony of the rare storm petrel. A midnight trip here to see them during the summer months is highly recommended. And these features combined make Mousa my #1 must-see Shetland archaeological site. So there we have it, that's my list of 10 must-see Shetland archaeological sites. If you think I've got it all wrong or there's any glaring omissions, please let me know in the comments down below. I'll be honest, there's going to be a part 2 of this video, so if there's things you think should definitely be included in that, let me know and I'll chuck them in. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and if you really want to help me out, check out the links to the merchandise and the digital stores, and you can follow along on all our social media. The links to all of that is down in the description below. If you'd like a tour of any or all of these sites, you can do. Head over to the website adventureshetland.com and fill out the booking form from there. Thanks for watching. I'm John from Adventure Shetland, and I will talk to you again soon about more Shetland adventures.